Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
In the year 2025, a very surprising event took place. The country of Russia made an important announcement. It decided to officially recognize the Taliban government in Afghanistan. This was a big change because many people around the world did not expect it. Russia became the first country to formally accept the Taliban as the true rulers of Afghanistan, a nation that has seen much conflict. This important moment happened after a long and difficult time for Afghanistan. Before this, in August of 2021, the United States and its allies left Afghanistan after a presence of 2 decades. People watched as helicopters flew the last American staff from the embassy in Kabul. The Afghan government, which had been supported by Western countries for many years, quickly fell. Taliban fighters took control of the entire country very fast, ending the longest war for the United States. After the Taliban returned to power in 2021, most nations around the globe refused to recognize them as the official government. Countries like the United States, those in Europe, and the United Nations wanted to put strong pressure on the Taliban. They hoped this pressure would make the Taliban change their actions, especially regarding human rights and how they treated women. This meant Afghanistan was largely cut off from the global financial system and diplomatic relations. The goal was to make them form a government that included everyone and respected basic freedoms. However, this policy of isolation had a very difficult impact on the ordinary people of Afghanistan. The country's economy, which relied heavily on help from abroad, became very weak. Money from international banks was frozen. Many people lost their jobs, and basic services like healthcare and education suffered greatly. There was a huge need for humanitarian help. Millions of Afghans faced serious hunger, and many could not get enough food or medicine. More than half of the country's population needed immediate aid to survive. This showed the terrible real-life effects of the world's decision to not work with the new government. For over 3 years, Afghanistan remained largely separate from the world. Russia's recent decision could change this, bringing new challenges and opportunities for the country and global relations. 2. A new friend for Russia. Russia made an important decision. It became the first country to formally recognize the new government in Afghanistan. There were clear reasons for this. The main reason for Russia was safety. Moscow worried about dangers coming from Afghanistan. These dangers could hurt Russia and its nearby countries. One big concern was a group called ISIS-K. This group is very dangerous. They plan attacks in different places, not just in Afghanistan. For example, in March 2024, ISIS-K attacked a concert hall in Moscow. Over 140 people lost their lives. This attack made Russia see that the threat from Afghanistan was very real, even for its own cities. Russia also looked at the Taliban in a new way. The Taliban fights against ISIS-K inside Afghanistan. Russian leaders saw that both Russia and the Taliban wanted to stop ISIS-K. So Russia thought the Taliban could be useful. They believed the Taliban could help control ISIS-K and stop it from growing stronger. It was a choice to work with a group they knew rather than face greater problems from other, more extreme groups. Another important reason for Russia's decision was to stop the flow of illegal drugs. Afghanistan produces most of the world's opium. A lot of these drugs are smuggled through countries next to Afghanistan, on their way to Russia and Europe. Russia faces serious problems with drug use among its own people. The Taliban had shown they could reduce drug production in the past. Russia hoped that by recognizing the Taliban, they could work together to stop this drug trade. This cooperation would make Russia safer from drugs. Lastly, Russia wanted to protect its neighbors in Central Asia. These 5 countries, like Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, were once part of the Soviet Union. They share borders with Afghanistan. Russia sees them as a very important area for its own security. If Afghanistan is not stable, this instability can easily spread to these nearby countries. By making a formal connection with the Taliban, Russia wanted to send a message to its Central Asian allies. It showed that Russia was ready to help keep the whole region safe. Russia aimed to be the main country helping to manage problems and keep peace around Afghanistan. This new friendship was about Russia's own safety and its power in the region. 3. Money and power. Afghanistan holds a lot of wealth underground. Experts say it has minerals worth trillions of dollars. These include important things like lithium, which is used in batteries for many modern technologies, like electric cars and mobile phones. It also has rare earth elements, which are vital for electronics. Russia is very interested in these valuable resources. Russian companies have the skills to work in difficult places, and they want to help get these minerals out of the ground. The Taliban government, needing money, has welcomed foreign businesses to help with mining. In 2022, Russia was the first country to sign a big trade agreement with the new Afghan government. In this deal, Russia agreed to provide important goods like oil, gas, and wheat. In return, Afghanistan would send agricultural products and various minerals to Russia. Since then, Russian companies have opened offices in the Afghan capital, Kabul. They are exploring more business chances, from energy to phone services. A Russian business group even plans to study Afghanistan's mineral wealth very carefully. This will help Russia understand exactly what resources are there. But Russia's interest in Afghanistan is not just about money. It is also about power and changing the world order. Russia wants to create a new way the world works, where the United States has less influence. This idea is about building a multipolar world, meaning many powerful countries instead of just one or a few. Russia's decision to recognize the Taliban directly challenges Western countries. The United States and its allies have refused to recognize the Taliban. By doing the opposite, Russia shows it will follow its own path. It signals that it will not be limited by what Western countries want. This move also helps Russia build new friendships with non-Western countries. Russia, along with countries like China and Iran, is working to create new global groups and systems. These new groups aim to be different from the ones led by the West, like NATO or the G7. Afghanistan sits in a key position, making it important for these new connections. By having a formal tie with Kabul, Russia can help Afghanistan join these new groups. This might also encourage countries like China, Iran, and Pakistan to also recognize the Taliban. So, Russia's choice is not just about Afghanistan's minerals. It is a big step in Russia's plan to make a different kind of world, one with less Western power and more alliances for Russia. 4. The West says no. The United States and its European allies spoke strongly against Russia's decision. They quickly issued statements to express their deep concern. Leaders said Russia's move was a very troubling step. They believed it went against global efforts to help human rights and fair governance in Afghanistan. A major worry for Western nations was the way the Taliban treated its own people. They saw Russia's action as a deep betrayal of the Afghan people, especially women and girls. Since the Taliban came back to power, they had taken away many rights from women. Girls over the age of 12 were banned from school. Women could not work in most jobs. They also had many rules about how women could live and move freely, often requiring a male family member with them. Western governments felt that Russia's action might make these unfair rules seem acceptable on the world stage. They feared that giving formal recognition to the Taliban would set a dangerous example. It could send a message to other groups or governments that it was acceptable to ignore human rights. It might make them believe they would not face serious international problems for such actions. For example, France called Russia's move unacceptable because it gave legitimacy to a government that severely violated women's and minority rights. The United Kingdom also called it a betrayal of the Afghan people, especially women. Because of these strong worries, Western nations firmly stated they would not change their minds. They would continue their policy of not recognizing the Taliban government. They made it clear that their refusal to accept the Taliban would remain. For the Taliban to gain any recognition from the West, they would need to meet several important conditions. The Taliban must respect women's rights and the rights of all people. They must form a government that includes different groups from Afghanistan, not just their own. Also, they must cut all ties with international terrorist organizations. Western nations stressed that these were essential requirements for any future change in their position. Many international human rights groups also spoke out with strong words. Organizations like Human Rights Watch said Russia's recognition gave the Taliban a green light to continue their harsh rules and systematic oppression. They called it a profound betrayal of the Afghan people. Women's rights groups, both inside Afghanistan and living in other countries, felt that Russia's move made their difficult situation even worse. They believed it signaled that the world was accepting a system that treated women unfairly and suppressed their freedom. This firm reaction from the West clearly showed how different their views were from Russia's. Western countries value democracy, human rights, and the idea of inclusive government. They believed Russia's decision went against these important global principles. It created a clear division in how countries saw the future of Afghanistan and what kind of government should be accepted in the world. Western diplomats quickly reached out to their allies, asking them to keep their policy of non-recognition. They warned about the negative effects of making the Taliban seem like a normal, accepted government. This made the global situation around Afghanistan much more complex and highlighted different worldviews. 5. Asia is watching. After Russia's big decision, countries in Asia watched closely. China responded very carefully. It welcomed Russia's move, but it did not recognize the Taliban government itself. Chinese officials said that Russia's action was good for peace in the region. They also said that other countries should talk to the Afghan government. China has been working with the Taliban already. This is because China worries about security near its border, especially in Xinjiang province. China also wants to build new trade routes and projects as part of its Belt and Road Plan. Chinese companies have signed deals for mining and building in Afghanistan. Security officials from China also talk to the Taliban about border safety and fighting terrorism. Russia's choice gave China a good reason to work more with the Taliban without being the first big country to say they are a real government. China might recognize the Taliban later, after seeing how other countries react. Iran also watched the situation closely. It gave a careful statement, saying Russia's move was a step to make Afghanistan's place in the world normal again. Iran did not recognize the Taliban right away. Iran's relationship with the Taliban is not simple. Both countries do not like Western influence. But Iran is mostly Shia Muslim, and the Taliban are Sunni Muslim. This has caused problems before. Iran also has many Afghan refugees, which makes things difficult at home. Still, Iran kept its embassy in Kabul open and talks with the Taliban often. Iranian businesses are also looking for trade chances, especially for energy. Russia's choice put pressure on Iran to decide its own next steps. Pakistan, a neighbor of Afghanistan, also reacted carefully. In the past, Pakistan was one of only 3 countries that recognized the Taliban's first government. But this time, Pakistan did not follow Russia immediately. Pakistan has its own reasons for working with the Taliban, like border security and trade. However, Pakistan also needs help from Western countries and groups like the International Monetary Fund for its economy. Recognizing the Taliban could make this help stop. So Pakistan wanted to wait and see. It hoped to work with China and other nearby countries if they decided to recognize the Taliban together. Countries in Central Asia were in a hard spot. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan are close to Afghanistan. They also have strong ties with Russia. They felt pressure to support Russia's choice, but they also needed to manage their own relationships with the Taliban. Uzbekistan, which shares a long border with Afghanistan, said Russia's move was a country's own choice that could help make the region stable. Uzbekistan has been very practical with the Taliban, keeping trade and talks going. Tajikistan, which has Russian military bases, was more careful. It has criticized the Taliban before because of ethnic differences. But Tajikistan said it would not go against Russia's choice and might talk more with the Taliban if the area became safer. These reactions from Asian countries showed a world that was divided. Not everyone agreed with the West's view. Many countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America did not say anything or gave neutral statements. This showed that some countries cared more about a country's right to govern itself than about human rights. It also showed that some countries agreed with Russia's view that Western countries have too much power in the world. This different way of thinking meant the world was breaking into different groups. 6. Life in Afghanistan now. Life in Afghanistan today is difficult for many people. After the recent news of Russia's recognition, Afghans have different feelings about what it means for their daily lives. For some business owners, Russia's recognition of the Taliban government brought a small amount of hope. Fareed Ahmed, who owns an electronics shop in the city of Herat, felt this hope. Before 2021, his business was good, but now it is hard to get goods from other countries due to international banking rules. Fareed hopes that if more countries follow Russia's lead and recognize the government, it will help businesses like his. He wants normal trade to start again to support his family. The Taliban government has said that international recognition would lead to unfrozen money and foreign investment. This could bring more jobs and economic chances for struggling Afghans. However, for women and girls, the feeling is very different. Many feel that this recognition means the world is accepting their lost rights and freedom. Mariam, who was a university teacher, now cannot work. She cannot leave her home without a male family member. The Taliban have made many rules against women. Girls over the age of 12 cannot go to school. Women cannot do most jobs, even for aid groups. They cannot travel far alone or speak loudly in public. The United Nations has called these rules gender apartheid. For Mariam, Russia's decision tells the Taliban that the world is okay with what they are doing. She fears they will be made to disappear completely from public life. The country also faces a very big problem with hunger and poverty. Many people do not have enough food to eat. Nur Ahmad, who was a schoolteacher, now works simple jobs when he can find them. He struggles to feed his family of 7. More than half of all Afghans, about 23.7 million people, need help to get food and other basic things. Many children are suffering because they do not get enough to eat. The country's economy has become much smaller, making Afghanistan one of the poorest places in the world. Ethnic minorities in Afghanistan are also very worried about their safety and future. These groups, like the Hazara people, have faced problems for a long time. Ali Reza, a Hazara farmer, thinks about how this news might affect his community. He has heard about young Hazara men disappearing and their holy places being destroyed. Their children are sometimes told they must only learn the Pashto language. Human rights groups have reported unfair treatment against Hazaras, including forced evictions or arrests without reason. These groups fear that if the world accepts the Taliban government fully, no one will protect them. Life in Afghanistan now is a mix of faint hope for some and deep fear for others. The country's future depends on many things, including how the world chooses to act after Russia's decision. 7. A dangerous game. Russia's decision to formally recognize the Taliban was not just one small action. It was part of a much bigger, long-term plan. People sometimes call this plan the New Great Game. It describes a modern struggle for power and influence in Central Asia. This region is very important because of its location and resources. Many powerful countries want to have more control and influence here. The main players in this new game are Russia and China. They are playing against Western countries like the United States and the nations of Europe. These two groups have different ideas about how the world should operate. Russia and China want a world where many big powers exist and each can follow its own rules. Western countries, however, often want a world with more shared international rules and a focus on human rights. This difference makes the game complex and often tense. The prize in this game is very large. It includes control over important land and trade routes. This strategic land helps connect different parts of Asia and Europe, making it vital for trade and travel. But there is also another very significant prize: valuable minerals. Afghanistan has many rich mineral deposits hidden in its ground. These include lithium, which is essential for making batteries for modern electric vehicles and electronic devices. It also has rare earth elements, which are very important for many new technologies. Countries want to control these resources to fuel their own economic growth and strengthen their global power. However, Russia's bold move to recognize the Taliban carries a big risk. By officially accepting the Taliban, Russia showed a willingness to work closely with a government that many other major countries still refuse to acknowledge. This means Russia is putting its own international reputation and future plans on the line. There are many serious problems inside Afghanistan, and the Taliban might not be able to solve them effectively. One major risk for Russia is security. The Taliban had promised to fight and stop terrorist groups like ISIS-K. Yet, ISIS-K remains active inside Afghanistan and has even carried out attacks in other countries. If the Taliban cannot fully control these dangerous groups, it could make Russia appear weak or misguided. Russia wants to keep its nearby allies in Central Asia safe from these threats. If the Taliban cannot provide this vital security, Russia's broader strategy in the region will face significant challenges. Another important risk is Afghanistan's economy. The country's economic situation is very poor, with widespread poverty and hunger. The Taliban desperately want foreign countries to invest money and help them rebuild their nation. They hope that official recognition will encourage this help. But if the Taliban cannot improve daily life for ordinary Afghan people, their government will remain unstable and fragile. Foreign businesses might hesitate to invest in a country with so many deep-rooted problems. If the Taliban fail to deliver on security promises or cannot significantly improve the economy, Russia's decision will look like a misstep. It could show that Russia chose a weak or unreliable partner in a crucial region. This would reduce Russia's influence among other countries that are also seeking new alliances and power. This makes it a truly dangerous game because the final outcome for all players involved is far from certain. Many things can go wrong for Russia if the Taliban do not meet their promises and secure stability. The future of Central Asia and perhaps the balance of global power now heavily depends on how this complex game unfolds. 8. A different world. Russia's decision to recognize the Taliban marked a big shift in global politics. It showed a new way countries are starting to deal with each other. For a long time, Western countries held much power, leading global discussions. But Russia's action showed that other strong nations are choosing different paths. This move by Russia made the world's division clearer. On one side are Western countries that focus on human rights and democracy. On the other are nations like Russia, which value a country's full control over its own land and strong partnerships. These different ideas make it harder for countries to agree. This can stop them from working together on big global problems like fighting climate change or stopping widespread diseases. Recognizing the Taliban also changed how the world sees Afghanistan. Many countries had refused to accept the Taliban, wanting them to respect human rights, especially for women and girls. Russia's choice suggests some countries might not prioritize these rights. This makes Afghanistan's future uncertain. It raises questions about the global commitment to human rights everywhere. This event is part of a new great game. It is not only about Afghanistan, but about who holds power worldwide. Different groups of countries are now forming, each with their own ideas about how the world should work. This makes future global peace and cooperation less clear. The situation in Afghanistan shows this clearly. Many women and girls there have lost their freedom and basic rights. If more countries accept the Taliban without demanding changes, it could make their situation worse. It could also be a bad example for other places where human rights are not respected. The world faces a choice. Will more nations follow Russia, or will they keep pushing for human rights? The answer will affect millions in Afghanistan and show what truly matters to the international community. What do you think? How might Russia's decision change the world in the coming years?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.